Is Nikki Haley now just going scorch the earth against the Republican Party as well as Trump? Nikki Haley condemns Trump's manipulation of the primary process. In a recent interview with Ms. Haley, she sharply criticized former President Trump for his attempts to manipulate delegates and primary rules in his favor for the 2024 Republican nomination. Haley, who served as Trump's ambassador to the United States, highlighted the irony of Trump's actions, noting that he had previously fueled lies about the 2020 election while now attempting to assert dominance in the electoral process. Expressing concern over what she sees as Trump's bullying tactics, Haley emphasized the need for Americans to recognize his efforts to evade legal issues by securing a victory in the upcoming election. This rebuke marks one of the most direct attacks Haley has launched against her former boss, signaling a shift toward a more controversial stance as she vies for the Republican nomination. Following an extremely disappointing second-place finish in Nevada's primary, where she trailed behind none of these candidates, basically none of the above, Haley intensified her criticism of Trump and the Republican establishment. Addressing a crowd in Los Angeles, she denounced Trump's behavior, describing it as a temper tantrum and lamenting the party's failure to embrace inclusivity and unity. Despite facing challenges in her campaign and trailing significantly behind Trump in polls, Haley remains resolute in her determination to stay in the race until Super Tuesday on March 5th. She acknowledges the uphill battle ahead, especially in states like California, which, not all Californians are Democrats. Just want to put that out there, where Trump maintains a commanding lead. However, Haley remains undeterred, pledging to persevere despite the obstacles. Throughout her campaign, Haley has consistently portrayed herself as a candidate committed to restoring order and stability within the Republican Party. She warns of the consequences of continuing to align with Trump, pointing to the chaos and turmoil that she believes he has brought upon the party and the country at large. As the Republican primary contest unfolds, you have to look at the implosion that the RNC is experiencing. We have just seen the Nevada primary, a primary that has zero implications on the delegates because the RNC decided that they were going to hold a primary as well as a caucus, and that the caucus is where the delegates will be delivered, and also that they will have whoever wins over 50% of the caucus rules. They get 100%. It's not a divvying up like you've seen in Iowa or with the primary in New Hampshire. So you have a primary that is toothless. You have a caucus that has basically been edged towards Trump and who is run by a governor who is one of the biggest election deniers of 2020. So there is some veracity to Haley saying this is being stacked. Also, you have an RNC who, Ronna Romney McDaniel, who, well, she used to always go by Romney McDaniel, but because of Trump and his disdain for her uncle Mitt Romney, has decided it would be best for her to drop that name to appease Trump. So the argument is if you don't bend the knee and kiss the ring of Donald J. Trump, you are basically, and I'm sure I will hear backlash of this, you will be barred, you will be banned, you will be kicked out, you will lose your job, or you are not worthy to have a proper election cycle. So again, as the Republican primary contest continues to unfold with our next primary, which is in South Carolina, the hope state for Nikki Haley, her critiques of Trump's leadership style and tactics reflect a broader concern within the party about its direction and future, because basically the RNC is hanging its whole identity on one man. Even during the Ronald Reagan years, even back in the Bush years, we never had one individual define a party like it has now. Now, this also continues to question whether the RNC has moved to such an extreme position or to just allowing, and again, this total allegiance to Trump, who was not required to sign an allegiance card to the Republican Party, who is basically putting in their MAGA. We can look at the 2022 elections. Yes, Rona has part of that. Yes, that is partially Trump's bad candidates that he put in. But the bottom line is that are we in a situation where now we are dominated by one individual who has now taken over, and the extreme has now taken over the body? So we'll see. But she has stated she will continue to challenge Trump and continue to demand that there are proper election processes, and keeps demanding a debate from Trump. Now, let's go into some interesting news from across the pond, and that is deciphering Tucker Carlson's Putin interview, insights from a seasoned journalist. As Tucker Carlson prepares to air his one-on-one interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin, it's crucial to analyze the dynamics at play and distinguish between journalism and propaganda. Drawing from the experiences of Lionel Barber, the former editor of the Financial Times, who conducted a rare interview with Putin, insights into Putin's motives and interview strategies emerge. Barber's encounter with Putin shed light on a Russian leader's calculated mind games and evolving worldview. Similarly, scrutiny of Carlson's interview approach becomes essential, especially given criticisms of his role as more of a propagandist than a journalist. Barber emphasizes the importance of examining Carlson's questions for their depth and potential bias, noting that softball inquiries could indicate a mere propagation of Putin's agenda. Putin's motivations for granting interviews to Western journalists often include promoting a favorable political narrative and undermining Western resolve, particularly regarding issues like the conflict in Ukraine. Understanding this backdrop is crucial assessing the objectives of Carlson's interview and its potential impact on public perception. Barber's account of his own interview with Putin provides valuable insights into the dynamics of such high-profile encounters. From the Kremlin's deliberate mind games to Putin's calculated responses, we really need to look at whether Tucker is there to do an interview and ask those hard questions that need to be asked. But if Tucker Carlson is supposed to be taken on face value based on what he has put out there in his video, Americans do have a right to see the other side. This is not the first time that a journalist has interviewed a less than, well, let's face it, there have been journalists across the board that have interviewed unsavory, horrible dictators and leaders. Fidel Castro was once the Times Man of the Year, and this is a man known to assassinate his political opponents as well. So the real issue is, what is going to be the repercussions of Tucker Carlson going against what the Western culture says is highly treasonous? Is it potentially treasonous? Now, Tucker Carlson has stated that while he was still with Fox News Network, that he had planned to interview Putin then, but that the government, the federal government via the NSA, intercepted texts and emails, and he canceled those plans. Well, he also intimated that this again occurred, and this is why he decided, you know what, I'm going to go forward with it. And there are now some people claiming that there are some serious implications that may bite Carlson in the tuchus, let's put it that way. Because whether freedom of journalism, freedom of the press actually holds true, legal expert Ian Corzine warns that Tucker Carlson could face, even though it seems very remote, a potential prosecution under the Espionage Act for his upcoming interview with Russian President Putin. Carlson, known for his conservative viewpoints, defended the interview, stating that most Americans lack sufficient information about the Putin and Russia's actions, emphasizing his duty to inform the public. Critics have raised concerns about Carlson's past promotion of Kremlin's talking points during the Russia-Ukraine conflict, suggesting that his interview with Putin could further propagate such narratives. Now, again, this is highlighting broad language of the Espionage Act, which prohibits Americans from engaging in activities that may benefit foreign countries, raising the possibility of legal repercussions for Carlson. But it is highly doubtful that his interview alone is sufficient to bring forth these actions. Now, one thing is for sure, Tucker's interview is reaping the ire from European Union lawmakers, especially Belgian Prime Minister Guy Verhofstadt, who have voiced concerns about Tucker Carlson's upcoming interview with Putin, suggesting that it could lead to potential sanctions against the conservative pundit. The Belgian Prime Minister described Carlson as a mouthpiece for both Putin and former President Donald Trump, indicating that the EU could explore imposing travel bans on him due to his perceived support for Putin's actions. While Carlson has defended the interview as a means to inform Americans about Putin's perspectives and the situation in Russia, critics fear that it could further propagate Kremlin narratives, particularly regarding the Russia-Ukrainian conflict. Verhofstadt's call for potential sanctions against Carlson reflects broader concerns among European lawmakers about individuals perceived to be aligning with or supporting Russian aggression. Despite the possibility of sanctions, any formal action against Carlson would require evidence and approval from relevant EU bodies, including the European Council. While some MEPs support Verhofstadt's stance, others emphasize the importance of American journalists evaluating Carlson's behavior, while suggesting that European leaders engaging with Putin should also face scrutiny for their diplomatic approaches. Tucker has always been one to be very, well, especially in the last year or so, has been very much someone who has been a bit forthright and scandalous in some of his reporting. The fact that we are now going to hear from Putin himself in this interview will be telling. Now, Putin is a strategist. Putin is former KGB. Putin is extremely intelligent and knows how to play the propaganda game. My hope is that Tucker actually came in there with tough questions. The hope is that Tucker will answer questions. Whether Putin answers them or not we'll see once it's aired on his unfettered, by the way. It is not a subscription-based interview. It will be on his website as well as on X. But the bottom line is, I feel that we do, as an American people, as a people of the world, get to hear another side of it, because every time the Ukrainian president Zelensky is interviewed, it's always a narrative that fits why we should be funding him. And as further speculation and growing frustration of the American people, seeing that billions and billions and billions of dollars are going to Ukraine, where we have an open border, where we have issues with inflation, homelessness, and other serious issues here in the United States that are not being funded, it would be a good cause for all journalists to look into this and seriously question both sides. I'm going to take a quick break, and we are going to go to the border and discuss what is happening with the truck envoy, as well as Texas' efforts to seal their border to illegal immigration. We'll be right back.